Hello, everybody. I am back. That didn't do a thing. Ugh, I hate dirty glasses. Anyway, I'm back. I was on vacation for a couple of weeks. Well, I was actually at a conference and then I was on vacation. I was in Boston. It was fantastic. We got to see lots of really fun things, and then I spent a week up near my parents' house, which is about 4 hours north of where I live, and that was great too. I did a little bit of work on my vacation just to sort of keep things rolling. Was sort of hoping to do a little bit more, but I realized that, well, it was just important that I rested and that I spent more time with my family. And after coming to that realization, I decided not to worry about it, and I just sort of let it be what it was. And so that's actually what I wanted to talk about today. So when I was at the subscription summit, one of the people who was at the summit, one of the attendees, made a comment to me that I thought was very interesting. And I thought it would be worth sort of teasing out and exploring a little bit more. And that is that rest is as much part of the creative cycle as work is. Often when we think of being creative, we think of the action, like the action associated with it. Writing, drawing, painting, building something with our hands, creating something. And that is definitely sort of the big part of creativity, or a big part of creativity. But the truth is that rest is just as much a part of creativity as action is. And rather than just try to keep up action and then get frustrated when we're not being active, I thought it would be helpful to talk about rest as part of the creative process. This is something I'm very much learning about, because the truth is that I am a action-oriented person when it comes to my creativity. That is to say, I would rather be producing than not. In fact, in my perfect world, I would wake up in the morning, and over the course of the day, I would write 20 to 30,000 words. I wouldn't think about anything else, and I would just do that, and then I would go to sleep, and then I would wake up the next morning, and I'd do it all over again. And like in my head, that is the absolute epitome of creative work. And it's also a really terrible lie that I tell myself. The idea that we have to be productive when we are trying to be creative is definitely a lie. Now, that doesn't mean that productivity isn't important. In fact, it's vitally important. If you find somebody who tells you that productivity, like that you don't have to produce anything to be a creative person, they are also lying to you. But these are lies that are on different ends of the same spectrum, right? If creativity is a line, and and on one end we have high production, and on the other end we have just thinking about things, no production, then every creative lives somewhere on that line. And there are some concessions that have to be made if you want to be a full-time creative, right? You have to produce something that other people are willing to pay for. If you just want to be creative, then you can spend more of your time on the thinking end of the line. If you want to pay your bills, then you probably have to spend more time on the production end of the line. But both extreme ways of thinking about creativity are wrong. It's not just a matter of what you can produce. It's not just a matter of putting out as much content as possible. And it's also not a matter of not putting out any content at all. And so creativity, properly applied, threads the line between these two things. I often feel, when I'm not being productive, a sense of light anxiety. This sort of anxious, gnawing feeling that won't go away until I start writing. And part of that is my personality, part of that is just how I've trained myself. But this past year, I have started coming to a realization that downtime, that time to just mull over my stories or think about what I'm doing, downtime is just as important as productive time. Now, for me, I need a lot less downtime than I need productive time. Other people might be different. Everybody, again, lives somewhere on this spectrum, and we're not the same. The truth is that rest is part of the creative process, and it is a vitally important part. In some cases, it might be the most important part. We see this a lot with people who burn themselves out. They are incredibly creative for an incredible period of time, and then they lose months, sometimes even years of creativity. And it's because they never properly take the time to rest. I've talked in previous videos about how important it is to just breathe, to take a moment and soak in the world around you, preferably in nature, because science shows that it's better to do it in nature than it is to do it not in nature or in a manufactured environment. And not only is that breath so vitally important, but it's something that we can actually build into our daily schedule, our daily routine. And when we do, we find that it actually supercharges our writing. It's so weird to think about this because the thought that you could actually improve your writing by doing nothing is so counterintuitive, at least to me. Maybe other people have an easier time with it, but it really is counterintuitive to me. I'm constantly thinking to myself, man, I gotta do more. I have to get better. I have to strive to write more. But the reality is that sometimes the best thing I can do is not write at all. Is to actually step back, take that deep breath, and say, you know what, I'm just going to sit on this for a little while. And when I do that, I invariably find that the writing that I produce becomes better and better and better. At the end of the day, like so much of life, creativity is a balance. Because on the other hand, it's possible to, and I lived in this space for a long time, believe me, but it's possible to just not do anything. To get so caught up in your thinking and in your dreaming and your musing that you just never act, you never achieve, you never produce. And if you don't produce, then you're going to be stuck forever. No amount of dreaming will ever move you toward your goal. Now, taking action on a dream you have will move you towards your goal. So there has to be this balance of resting and working. And I think that the balance is different for different people in different seasons of life. And so whatever season you're in, I would encourage you not to become anxious if you aren't producing something. Because maybe you're in a season where you just need a little bit more space and time. On the other hand, if you're not getting anywhere and you're feeling frustrated, then it's probably a sign that you need to start pushing more toward the production end of the spectrum. And there's no need to remain in one place. I found it incredibly helpful to realize that my creativity ebbs and flows. I think I have a video on that, actually. But it comes in these waves, and at some parts of the wave, I need less rest, and at some parts of the wave, I need more rest. But I would also encourage you not to think of rest as something that is a distinct part of your creativity, or even a distinct thing from your creativity. Like, don't think about this in terms of like production and rest, right? Think about them in terms of a cycle. Producing things generates thoughts in your mind, problems that you have to work through. Rest is how you work through them. It creates this cycle because production creates problems, problems require rest, rest allows you to produce. And so it creates a cycle that just keeps going forever, right? We talk about virtuous circles a lot. I talk about virtuous circles a lot. I don't know if you talk about virtuous circles a lot, but you should if you don't. But it creates this virtuous circle. And so now that I'm back from my vacation, now that I have spent a good amount of time resting, I'm very excited to get back into a higher production period and work towards maintaining that balance between rest and work. Anyway, this was a bit of a rambly video, but I hope you get something from it. And I will see you later.